Look at that health bar go down. Look at that health bar go down. He's straight up healing me. Oh, this feels so good, dude. It's literally like not even close. Not even. Did you guys really? You guys really bet against heavy strike? You look silly. You look so silly betting against heavy strike. As if I wouldn't clean it first try. Come on. Come on. The only reason I died was intentional suicide. Okay, not because of heavy strike. Hello and welcome, exiles, to the third day of the 10 divine build challenge. Now we went with heavy strike. We did this because, well, I wanted to be able to say, hey, heavy strike melee's fine. We did 10 divine ubers on heavy strike. Well, we did some of them. We did break some. The main takeaway from this, though, isn't about heavy strike. It isn't going to be, hey, play this character the way I set it up. The main takeaway I want to say is, hey, this is a cheap combination that's quite powerful, which is Doryani's prototype plus mauagihoqhnoxzcinpg machination. For this 10 divine challenge, a lot of what I want to do is try to highlight some powerful things that are completely undervalued. They're out of popularity, but, you know, maybe you're shopping on a budget and you want to try to make a character. This is something that you probably could build around if it's still cheap on the market like it is currently. So, mauagihoqhnoxzcinpgs cost about 200 chaos to 1 divine, and Doryani's prototype is a few C, and if you have a corrupted version, you can very easily get a 6-link with some tainted currencies with tainted fusings and tainted jewelers. Just always go to 4 sockets or 4-link sockets, use tainted jewelers, and then tainted fusings. Basically is not too shabby, usually not very costly on average, and you'll have basically a very good shield chest slot combo. Why is this good? Well, we can combine it with simply a tempered by war, and that will give us 50% of lightning and cold taken as fire. So if you have a 50% taken as chaos for divine flesh and 50% taken as fire from this, you have no lightning damage taken and no cold damage taken. This covers dots as well, so you don't have to spec resistance. So you don't have to spec resistances for cold or lightning at all. That's the first advantage. The second advantage is enemies that do penetration, like shaper balls, for example. Those come with like 25 cold pen on them. That makes them hit really hard. But if instead of taking cold damage, you're taking fire and chaos, that pen no longer applies, and you thus avoid the danger of a lot more mechanics because pen is no longer an issue. Not only that, but this also comes with a side benefit. If all you put on is a melding, you get to about minus 70 lightning res. I have minus 52 because I have a bit of all res on my tree. I have all res here. I have all res here because I had to fix my accuracy. Basically, if you don't have as much of a potato tree as mine, you'll have about minus 70 lightning res, which that equates to roughly what would be 120 lightning pen if you're talking about a boss with 50 lightning res, which most bosses have about 50 lightning res. I think like Shaper and stuff like that would have that res, and that's a big value. That's a big value. You don't have to spec in pen at all on your tree, and you don't have to screw around with a lot of other shenanigans. This is a combination that comes with damage and defenses. Obviously, the character ended up being pretty tanky, and that's mostly because of this combination. This comes with max res if you get a bit of a way to get energy shield, because the everlasting sacrifice portion of this shield is basically where you get 5 maximum chaos and 5 maximum lightning. And the way we do it is we ended up snagging ghost dance because we have a bunch of energy shield. We have a bunch of evasion in our build already because we're a classic champion setup, basically a perseverance belt plus some grace and determination, pretty classic stuff there. We are able to get a decent amount of energy shield every time we're hit from ghost dance, and that invocation only costs about 1 divine. Now, if you're specking a different tree and you're coming over this direction anyways, then you don't even have to spend the money for the invocation, and that means when you get hit, you proc everlasting invocate or everlasting sacrifice, and the 5 max res is pretty good uptime. We also have divine shield. This isn't going to be as consistent, but it'll still work decently. If you're negating some physical damage, that'll cause your ES to regen and pop up. That being said, do I have something that would block? I gotta look through the downsides. There might be a downside that says you can't regen energy shield. There it is. Yep, immortal ambition. Okay, never mind. Divine shield. I should not even have this spec. Okay, so I had a wasted point. Don't make too much fun of me. Okay, I had a wasted point. I didn't check all the downsides of the various keystones on the shield. Mistakes were made. Don't make too much fun of me. Okay. Anyways, moral of the story is with ghost dance you get that ES pretty easily. Not to mention you will leech it if you aren't getting hit, and that will give you the 5 max res there. Now, this is the portion of the build that I think works and works well for a budget. That's something I would recommend checking out. What doesn't work is heavy strike and pathing over like this. This tree I think is It's super awkward. I don't think it's a healthy tree. I think ultimately you're going to be better off going with a smite tree with a sword or a lightning strike tree. And this could be sword or claw, and you could go nightblade or you could go non-nightblade, stuff like that. And specking more onto this basically portion of the tree and maybe a little bit over here sort of thing. That's probably a tree that makes more sense. Or you could go like a Pathfinder route. That would work as well. Point is, I wanted to highlight these items because these are the items that work and work well in this build, and they work great on a budget. Everything else is more stock standard champion stuff. We got an Ol's Uprising. This was only one divine for the Wrath Ol's Uprising. I thought that was a steal at that price and pretty worth it. And ultimately, we did about 3 out of 7 Ubers, and we did the T16 map, which is basically a gimme point. That being said, this looks worse than it actually is. Cirrus, I had in coal range, but I kept standing on the dots before I hit him. And then Uber Elder, I basically did the same thing where I got it all the way to the last phase without even dying, and then I managed to chain die 6 times in a row. So Uber Elder, Cirrus, I choked massively on. This should be 6 out of 8, but I threw incredibly hard. Moral of the story is the bosses that really felt bad or hard to do were bosses with degens. Maven, Cirrus, Uber Elder, and Exarch. The bosses that had ground degens, and the fact I had to get in close and personal to be melee, that's when the ground degens really punish you, because I can't shoot the enemy from far away. I have to be on top of the enemy to be hitting him, and if you have ground degens all around you, I can't hit you, and therefore you're kind of nullifying my build. That's where the rub is for melee, obviously, is that scenario, and we definitely felt it in the specific Uber bosses that have a bunch of ground degens. Cortex could have been bad if I got like a hasted mod map where they spawn even more ground degens in, but luckily they weren't spawning the ground degens very fast there, so I ended up cleaning Cortex without too much problems because I think I got a really lucky roll, aka I didn't get bad mods that were terrible and ruined the run for me basically. So that was the run with this guy. It went okay. Ultimately, I am memeing by going Heavy Strike, but I wanted to do it for, I don't know, just the challenge of it to see if we could do some Ubers on Heavy Strike and 10 Divines. It turns out we could do a few of them. If I played a little bit better, I probably could have gone 6 out of 8. I don't think I'm ever doing Exarch on this character. I have an inability to dodge balls, and I just hit every single one of them. So Exarch's kind of not really a good time for me. And as for Maven, well, Maven I probably could do unless I get low rolls on the bosses sort of thing. Ultimately, I don't recommend this character per se. I recommend the setup of doryani's plus the machination. I think this works well, whereas the character itself is not working well, if that makes sense. Anyways, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's been a lot of fun for you. As always, take care, Exiles. Peace out. Have a good one.